Welcome back to the overnight edition of From Day One. Tonight, Art Bell from the 25 time zones around the world welcomes you into the master of the macabre. So here he is, the one and only Art Bell.
From the high desert and the great American Southwest, I bid you all good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. In the world's 25 time zones, covered like a warm blanket by this program, Midnight in the Desert. My name is Art Bell, and I'm going to do whatever damage I can do. All right, we have simple rules for the program. Really simple. No bad language. And one call per show, maximum. That's it. I would like to welcome KUJ in Walla Walla, Washington. That's right. KUJ, hello in Walla Walla. Nice to meet you. This is a show that you're going to have to learn to love because, like pickles, you might, when you first taste it, go, But after a while, you figure out if we're not doing what you like tonight, probably tomorrow night we will. Tonight is going to be really weird. Todd Robbins is really weird. And I say that as a weird person myself. He's really weird. Anyway, you'll find out. Let me talk about a couple of news-like things. The United States military will deploy a new special operations force to Iraq. Will step up the fight against the Islamic State militants unleashing violence in Iraq and Syria and determined to hold territory until they have seized virtually everything across the Middle East. So we're getting more in the fight. The fight. And I saw it grilling up on Capitol Hill earlier today that was worthy of repeating, but I won't repeat it word for word. It was a military general, forget his name. And they were asking, have we made any progress in winning the war? And the general said, we will win the war. But have we moved ISIS back at all anywhere? We will win the war. The answer. Are we winning the war? Well, we will win the war. That's kind of how it went. I'm still scared to death of what's going on in Syria. The Russians, with the missiles now and their own jets and everybody's missiles, and it's, a shoot down by Turkey of a Russian jet. Really serious stuff. And we got into a conversation last night about NATO. And today I got a whole bunch of, I guess, kind of disturbing emails in a way, to me anyway, my age, I guess. And everybody said, don't worry, Art, World War III can't start over there. Look, if Turkey did something stupid, the U.S. would pull out of NATO before they ever did anything. Well, you'd be surprised, I think, those of you of middle age, how many of those I got. NATO's going to dissolve. You don't have to worry about NATO. NATO is a treaty organization, and basically, skipping through all the legalese, it says, if you attack one of our NATO partners, as in Turkey in this case, it would be the same thing as if you dropped a nuke on New York. And everybody in NATO would respond in kind, and that has kept, kind of kept the beast at bay. But our younger generation, they don't know about NATO. We better get them educated about NATO. Or could they be right? You've thought about it. Well, yeah, maybe we would not go to war over Turkey, which means we would not keep our NATO promises, which would mean that once that happened, NATO would indeed, as they point out, dissolve. And the United States would lose a very great deal of its power and influence in the world, and the great days would surely be behind it, militarily, anyway. And I don't know what it would lead to. But some of you parents out there better talk to your children about what NATO is. No, we wouldn't participate in anything like that. Let me repeat. The rule of law, as it were, or treaty in this case, he says that an attack on, say, Istanbul would be the same as a nuke on New York City, requiring a similar response. That's why I'm scared about what's going on over there. But then again, maybe the younger generation is right, and our current president would say, no, pull out now. You know, I don't care about red lines. War over Turkey. Speaking of the president, he is in Paris now talking about the global warming problem and what should be done. He would like the rule of law, in essence, to apply to what is decided, but it seems to me that would take Congress. Trouble in Chicago, of course. Rahm Emanuel sought for months to keep the public from seeing a video, the awful one, that shows a white police officer shooting a black teenager 16 times. A little overkill there, huh? It's horrible, horrible. Now, I guess they're going to use more body cameras. I mean, in this case, it wasn't like they didn't have video. They had plenty of video. They just didn't release it, right? The feds now will investigate the Chicago PD. The chief of the PD, the chief there has been fired. Manuel did that, but he may be next. The people in Chicago are not happy campers. And I think that the political body of the chief is going to do it. They want Emmanuel. We'll see. All right, turning to things more interesting in some ways, the anomalist, referring to, I don't know if you've seen it, it should be on my website. It was on my website, but things get pushed down. We found a shot of a dome. To me, it looks exactly like an intelligence built this dome, and I believe they did, frankly. I mean, this is on Mars. You can look. Take a look yourself. You know, I'm not generally amazed at rocks, nor do I try to form things in my imagination about what those rocks are. But, you know, in the case of this dome, what the hell else could it be? It's an intelligently made dome on Mars. Now, that's sort of serious. Anomalous said alien hunters say the structure was built by some ancient civilization on the Red Planet. But honestly, we're going to throw some common sense aside for a moment, and just for the sake of argument, we're going to disagree. Seems they have a sense of humor there. It doesn't look like a man-made structure. It looks more like something organic, in fact. In fact, it looks like a hive. Well, a hive. A hive would imply, if not intelligent design, it would imply instinctual design, at the very least, right? So, if it's not up there, Keith, please put the dome back, the Mars dome. It's just too perfect. I just cannot believe that occurs in nature. Nor should it occur on a planet without, to speak of, an atmosphere. Okay, again, welcome. KUJ in Walla Walla, Washington. Glad to have you on board. Coming up in a moment is Todd Robbins. And he is a New York City-based performer and creative artist who has spent decades now specializing in arcane forms of popular entertainment, offbeat amusements, and intriguing deceptions. Throughout his life, he has been immersed in the dark worlds of sideshows, magic, con artists, and seances. In addition to being a featured performer, Todd has often been called upon to speak as an authority on, well, all things unusual. That would be us, right? And has been a consultant on numerous TV shows and movies. He has appeared on more than 100 shows, including Masters of Illusion, The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, The Late Show with David Letterman, 1,000 Ways to Die, which I'm embarrassed to say I watched many episodes of, Good Morning America, currently host of True Nightmares on Investigation Discovery, a show presenting bizarre true tales of mayhem that all have an erotic twist, possibly one that could, well, happen to you. So, Todd Robbins is very weird. You have no idea how weird, but you will. Do you know anybody who eats light bulbs for real? Eats light bulbs for real? Crunch, crunch, crunch. From the Kingdom of Nye, this is Midnight in the Desert with Art Bell. Please call the show at 1-952-225-5278. That's 1-952-CALL-ART. You know, I love that song because of the words, right? And how quickly your yesterdays will become your tomorrows. It sort of gives me a chill because, you know, I remember when I was like 12 years old, sitting kind of bored at my grandma's house with this giant radio. This radio was as tall as I was at that age. And I would sit and listen to it. Had shortwave on it, you know. And I would sit and listen to shortwave stations from around the world. And that was when I was 12 years old. And I remember that as it were yesterday. And today I'm 70. So, yeah, when they sing about it'll soon enough be your tomorrows, listen real carefully. Here, ladies and gentlemen, is Todd Robbins from New York City. Hi, Todd.
Hello, Art. It's an honor to be on the air with you.
Well, it's an honor to have you on, although that is yet to be really determined as the night rolls on.
It's true. It's true.
Okay, so
let me just say that it's an honor to be on with you because you're a true original, but I have to say it is one of the greatest honors in my life that the fact that you find what I do weird. You that have encountered everything and have met everyone and have been to the four corners of our world and found all the strange things, to think what I do is unusual, I find that a high honor, high praise indeed.
Well, then definitely feel honored. Because, I mean, what you do is weird. A lot of it is just, you know, really, really interesting and right down sort of the path that I travel on a nightly basis. But, yeah, some of what you do is weird, Todd. You got to admit.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. I like to jokingly say it's a pathetic plea for attention, but it gets it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I watched 1,000 Ways to Die. You know, I'm kind of curious about that show since you had a parent involvement with it, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 1,000 Ways to Die was pretty brutal stuff, and usually it showed or reenacted these horrible, horrible, horrible deaths. I remember one where this guy was cutting in the ceiling. I can't remember. He was going to spy on somebody, I believe it was. He was cutting and cutting and cut around and around and around. It was in the bathroom, right? So we could spy on this girl, I guess. And what happened is he cut 2 bathtub fill on him. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just amazing the depths of ridiculousness that we find in human behavior
And depravity.
Yeah. often hand in hand.
Yes, indeed, I'm sure. So you are originally from Southern California, is that right?
Yeah. That explains why for a lot of people, why I do the unusual things that I do. But it goes a little further than that. I grew up in the Long Beach, California area, kind of on the outskirts of the town there, sort of on the border with Orange County. And Long Beach was a mixed town. It had the downtown area had kind of seen better days. And it sprawled into the former farmland. The reason it was called Orange County was because of all the orange groves.
I know, but who moves from Southern California east to New York? I mean, you, obviously. You
Yeah,
did.
I did because, that was part of it. In growing up there in the suburban area, it was exactly what my parents wanted. They grew up in the Depression. They fought in World War II, and they were looking for pleasant. They were looking for something that was clean, it was safe, it was quiet. It was, the American dream. It was what they had fought all their lives for and dreamt of, and they had it. And growing up there, it was pleasant. It had everything you could possibly basically want except character. Everything was sort of manufactured, and the lawns were all manicured, and they were landscaped, and then the houses were all uniform, and you know, there's a reason that out of this environment came things like grunge rock and excessive drug use.
Oh, yes.
For me, I didn't turn in that direction, but what happened was I was just always interested in kind of older things, the things of the past that people had forgotten about and sort of discarded. And you know, what happened was I was fascinated by old show business. I would often have bronchitis when I was a kid growing up, and would stay at home, and the local stations played these wonderful old black and white movies from the 30s and 40s, and they often repackaged some of the silent films and put a soundtrack and sound effects to it. And so I ended up growing up, you know, watching Charlie Chaplin and Harold Lloyd and Laurel and Hardy and W.C. Fields and the great comedians and all the great classic films. And I just found this more interesting than what was coming our way at the local multiplex.
Hey, look, it's more interesting than most of what's going on radio today.
Oh, yeah, very much so. Very much. I mean, listen, when you get the radio, because, you know, this is the medium of the imagination. You're painting word pictures in the minds and hearts and souls of people as they're listening.
I know, but a lot of that's gone, Todd. It's gone.
It's true. It's true.
Replaced by formatic radio. Everything's the same. Anyway, yeah, so you went from...
Well, I'll tell you what the real turning point was. When I was about 10 years old, a magic shop opened in our neighborhood, a little strip mall, a little dingy strip mall, and I went in there and never been in anything place like this, and there were these shows filled with unusual paraphernalia that was specifically designed to deceive the senses, to create illusion, and I just found it was great. And I would go there on Saturday afternoons and take magic lessons, learn sleight of hand, and buy tricks there, and I'd hang out. The thing I enjoyed most is it was almost like a little clubhouse. There were a bunch of old-timers that used to hang out there, and they would sit and do card tricks for each other and smoke unfiltered Camel cigarettes and swap lies. And these guys were ancient. They were like 40 years old. And, you know, here's a kid just kind of just taking all this character in, and it instilled in me a desire to really find real magic in our world. And so I saw all the magic I could. And I would watch all the variety shows, which, you know, the Ed Sullivan and Hollywood Palace, and even the talk shows like Merle Griffin and things often had variety performers on them. And I would wait to see the magic acts. And then I would see whatever I could live, and a carnival came to our neighborhood. And there on the midway between the rides that had been approved by bribe safety inspectors and the games you couldn't win, there was this large white tent with colorful banners out front that depicted strange, unusual people doing remarkable things. It was the sideshow. And there was a guy standing out front, the outside talker. People call him a barker, but the correct term is outside talker. And he would literally talk people into seeing the show, buying a ticket and come in. And one of the acts he was talking about and pitching was the magic act. So I went in to see the magic act. And it wasn't that impressive, but the guy swallowing a sword, someone eating fire, someone lying down on a bed of nails. These things capture my imagination because this was all real. There was no deception here. The sword was real. The fire was hot. The nails were sharp. And it was extraordinary ability beyond the capabilities of the average person. And if you think about that, that's a pretty good definition for real magic. And so I went back to the local magic shop after seeing this and was all excited with all this because I was not only amazed by all this, but I had a desire to learn how to do it. And it turned out one of the guys had worked in a sideshow, and he could teach me how to eat fire. And I learned that. And I also learned a wonderful act called the blockhead act, which is the ability to take a large nail and hammer it into the center of your nose, right into the nasal passage. And, you know, my doctor said I needed more iron. And I learned how to do that. And I also wanted to learn all the backstory. I wanted to know where he learned it and where it came from and all that. So I started...
Can I stop you, Todd? And, you know, I don't even know where to stop you. With the nose thing, for example.
Yeah.
Okay, so you drive a nail into your nose for real, or is it an illusion?
No, it's real. It goes straight back into the nasal pharynx. It goes into the air passages into the top of throat. It looks impossible, and it's all based upon principles of anatomy. And since most people step through anatomy, it seems like a miracle.
If you get it wrong,
when you get it wrong, well, then that's all, folks. That's the thing. There's a risk in all of this, and so I was very fortunate to learn the proper technique, because there's many places that nail can go, and there's only one place it should.
no doubt.
So you have to really learn the technique behind it and learn how to do it from someone who knows what they're doing. It is very much the old style of the mentor and apprentice. It's really
how many beginners get it wrong?
Well, the sad fact is there are a number of people who have seen me on the internet do it, and along with the other things that I do, and they just decide, I'm going to do it. And I get emails from people saying, okay, I want to hammer a nail into my nose. What should I do? And I say, that you should stop. Because they don't know what they're doing, and they're going to end up hurting themselves. It's one of the reasons I started up a sideshow school in Coney Island many years ago to pass these techniques on so that these traditions are carried on, and they're carried on properly so people don't hurt themselves.
Well, it shows how bad I am. There are some people I know that if they were about to try that, I'd say, yeah, cool. Go ahead.
Go for it. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, it improves the gene pool a little bit there.
Well, all right. So what is the Magic Castle in Los Angeles?
The Magic Castle is a private club for magicians that is in a beautiful Victorian house. It's on the hillside there in Hollywood, right above the old Chinese theater, which was originally Grauman's Chinese theater. And right above that, the next block up on the hillside is this great old house that was started up in 1963 by two brothers who were sort of amateur magicians and had a great love of it. Their father was a magician, and they started up the Academy of Magical Arts. And it is just this wonderful place that you go in, this little tiny room, and there's a receptionist there to make sure everyone is properly attired. You have to wear a coat and tie for men, and women have to be in very dressed up, preferably dresses, but it's a little more flexible these days. And then once you make sure that everyone's over 21, you go over to a bookcase, and there's a little ceramic owl with glowing eyes, and you say to the owl, you whisper, "Open sesame," and a bookcase slides back, and you enter this wonderful world where anything can happen, and it usually does. It's been going on for about 53 years now, and it is just an amazing and wonderful place. There's theaters all over it. There are magicians doing card tricks for each other. There's a little music room, a little parlor where they have a piano.
So it's magicians only?
Well, it's magicians and their guests. You have to know a magician member to get into the place. So it has an exclusivity quality.
Because one would assume that secrets are being revealed.
Not so much. I mean, there are magicians that kind of get together in session, which means they'll sit off in the corner and they'll do card tricks for you. They'll then show it, but they don't normally reveal it to the laity, to the general public, because really all magicians have is their secrets of how they create their illusion.
Yes, sir. What was the recent movie about magicians? The Illusionist, I believe, wasn't it?
Well, there was The Illusionist, and also The Prestige was the other one. There were two of them that came out about the same time, about the sort of the Victorian era of magic.
So then magicians really are very competitive, very secret, and so forth, right?
Yes, because like I say, it is a wall that they insist upon putting up. And when I do magic, I do the same thing, because you don't want to see behind the curtain, because often the illusion is much better than the reality.
Okay, so I've got to ask you then about the TV shows that have been on that specialize in doing nothing other than exposing how a magician does what he does. How do you feel about those? I imagine not well.
Well, I don't think it has any impact, because the fact is that people don't have a real good reference point for it. I look at those things, and I know exactly what's going on, the mechanism behind it, but people forget details, and it's often kind of disappointing. And the fact is that when the Mass Magician special came about 15 years ago, everyone was like, "Oh my goodness, this is the worst first thing that's going to bring magic to an end. No one's going to want to see magic. And the irony of it is, the first one got great ratings, the second one got lesser ratings, the third one got far fewer ratings. Before you know it was all gone. Because people really don't want to know. They like a mystery.
Oh, you're right about that. They like a mystery. One real quick question for you. Is there any such thing as real magic?
That's a whole long topic.
Yeah, okay. Well, we're coming up on a break, so you think about how you want to answer that. We'll take a break. Be back in about 7. You're listening to Midnight in the Desert. Tom Robbins, my guest. Midnight in the Desert is a wild trip across the days of Icer. Get your ticket to ride by calling 1-952. Call Art, that's 1-952-25-5270. I'm serving you up a stern warning. You're going to hear about a lot of things tonight. You know, like driving a nail into your nose, eating light bulbs. Trust me, that's coming up. And a lot of things. You're going to hear about all sorts of things. Do not try these things. That's as stern a warning as I can think to give. Maybe there's a way to say it. You may die if you do some of these things. That's pretty stern, I guess. Todd, welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've got to really say that, huh? Because you get enough thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people. You say something like this, and somebody's going to take that nail and give it a try.
Yeah, to a certain degree, but on the flip side of it is, I don't want anyone to give this a try that doesn't know what they're doing. If they're really interested, they need to search out some sources, and then we can get into those later where they can look if they're really seriously interested. But just there's a whale factor in any of this stuff that I do when it comes to the old sideshow skills. You do it wrong, you end up hurting yourself, and everyone that does it for any extended period of time does end up hurting themselves to some degree. But hopefully, if they have learned properly, it diminishes the danger and the risk. You can't completely eliminate it, but you can diminish it. But you have to know what you're doing.
Okay. Right. Well, the craziness. So what I asked you before the break was, is there any real magic? Now, I investigate the paranormal, every aspect of it you can imagine. I have come to believe that a great deal of it is true and some of it's baloney. But if I ask you about magic, have you ever encountered real magic?
I've encountered many mysterious things, coincidences, whatever however you want to define them. But there have been many strange things that have happened through the years that make you wonder. And I love mystery. That's one of the reasons I love this show and have listened to you for so many years, because I love mystery, because it's just things yet to be understood.
That's true. Well, how do you define magic? As things yet to be understood?
Yes. Yeah, I would. Yes, exactly. Because though we may love a mystery, people want answers, and that's where the problem comes in. When you settle for easy, comfortable answers that feel good, but might not be true. And there's a number of people out there who will be more than willing to deceive you to take your money on many levels and provide you with answers. And that's where we get into a whole area that you kind of scratch your head and say, why are people believing this stuff?
I say it all the time.
Yeah.
I really do. But I still have hopes and some understanding that a lot of it really, it is real to the degree that you said that we don't understand it. I've had things happen in my personal life completely beyond, any random chance for happening. They were real. Not many of them, just a few, but enough to know that there's substance here somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and that's what keeps me going is wondering what tomorrow is going to bring, what new discoveries and advancements. And, what you're talking about at the top of the show, about discovering something that looks like a dome on Mars. Let's find out more about that. There'll be plenty of people who will give you an answer. And you go, oh, okay, and why do you think that? Well, let's find out more. Let's investigate. Let's go further with this.
Have you seen it?
I haven't, but I'm going to. I'm going to take a look at that as soon as we finish here tonight.
Okay, so you don't have a computer in front of you right now?
No, unfortunately I don't.
Okay. Well, you're a very rare American. Almost everybody else.
I do have a computer, it's just not right in front of me. I'm here in the living room because I want to be nice and comfortable and enjoy this.
Good. All right, so this Magic Castle, apparently there's a ghost in the Magic Castle that plays the piano, does even request occasionally, that kind of thing, a ghost that plays the piano. Now,
that's the illusion that they create. Her name is Irma. The story they tell, it's always a good story.
Okay.
That there was a family that lived in the house that hated music except for this one daughter, and she would go up to the attic to play the piano that they had sort of thrown up there and hidden away. And when the Magic Castle was open, they found that old piano up there. They brought it down, and we're going to have someone to play it. But they discovered that the ghost of Irma, who passed away many, many years ago, is more than happy to come down and play requests for people. And she, you walk in there and say, Irma, it's so good to see you. How are you feeling tonight? And Irma plays, I feel pretty, oh, so pretty. And you go, oh, we seem to be in a good mood. And she'll play Making Whoopee and say, oh, well, who is it on the other side that you're getting your ectoplasm with? And she plays, I'm just wild about Harry. And so it's fun that way. It's a lovely, lovely thing.
Yep, sounds like fun. All right. Now, my producer, when she got hold of you, she told me, Art, Todd Robbins eats light bulbs. I said, yeah, right. I said, Heather, those are made of, some sort of sugary substance, just like the windows in movies that break so easily and look like they're real.
Candy glass.
Candy glass, that's right. And she said, no. Todd actually eats light bulbs.
Yeah.
I said, you mean like a Philips or a GE standard old 60 or 100 watt light bulb? She said, yes. I said, I actually said, I don't believe it, Todd.
Well, it's true. I can give you a little background on this. It's an old stunt that goes back to the fakirs of India. I have to be very careful saying that word on the air. The fakirs of India, and those amazing high holy men that did things like being buried alive and sustaining themselves underground, or lying down on a bed of nails, or doing all kinds of things that just push the limits of what the body can do. And one of the things they would do is they would take glass, and even before there were light bulbs, they'd take panes of window glass and bite into it and chow down on the broken glass. And this is something that in the early 19th century, a troupe of, they used to refer to them as Indian jugglers, but not jugglers in the modern, what we think of jugglers, but they were these performers that were doing things different than traditional sleight-of-hand magic.
Yeah.
And they came to England, and they were a huge hit there. And then the members of the troupe broke off. They taught other people, and little by little it got passed around. So by the middle of the 19th century, it found its way into the dime museums, which were the sideshows of their day. P.T. Barnum had the most famous one here in New York. And they would demonstrate strange abilities, such as taking a sword and shoving it down the throat, and eating glass, and swallowing fire, putting hot fire.
All right, well, let's deal with one at a time if we can. And this is eating glass. Now, there's just no way. I can remember once working in Las Vegas. This was years and years ago, and I would bring my coffee to work, radio station, with me in a thermos. And one day I poured my coffee as usual, and apparently I dropped something because it had all this flaky stuff that looked just exactly like glass, and I had been drinking it, and I thought, oh my God, I'm dead as a doornail. I've been drinking glass. It really wasn't glass, it was just that flaky stuff. Maybe some of it was glass, I'm not sure. People called me and said, for God's sakes, eat bread. Quickly, eat bread. So Here's the question, Todd. When you eat light bulbs, and I'm told you have eaten more light bulbs actually than anybody else in the world, is that right?
Yeah. It's somewhere in the neighborhood of 5,000.
5,000. So it's not a trick. It's not an illusion. You really eat them.
Yeah, like so many things, it's all based upon principles of physics and anatomy. And with anatomy, it's amazing how adaptive the human body can be. There's a way of chewing up the glass. The great thing about it is that, like we were talking earlier, a magician does a trick and go, how did you do that? How'd you make that? How'd you know what card I selected? And they'll say, I can't tell you. But this stuff, I find it's more interesting the more you know. And again, I'm not trying to encourage anyone. I'm sort of explaining this, but I'm not instructing people on how to do this.
No, God, no, don't do it.
No, there's a way of chewing up the glass and swallowing it so it doesn't cut up the mouth and throat.
All right.
There's a diet and regimen I go through every day that keeps the glass moving through my system. And it takes about 2 days to go through. So the first part of it is, I want to, as I take a light bulb, I bite into the metal part and spit out that, the little threaded part that goes into the socket.
So that's where you bite, right above that.
Yeah. And that's actually the most dangerous part of doing it, because I have no real control of how that's going to break. And that's often where I'll get a little cut on my lip or gum when I bite into that. But once it's broken, then I can kind of gingerly bite into the glass and start chewing it. And I keep it in the soft areas of my mouth and on the tongue, because there's a lot of elasticity there. You can take a knife blade and actually press your flesh into it. It's the lateral movement that actually cuts it. But putting pressure on a sharp edge will not cut unless you put just so much. It's going to penetrate the flesh. But it's amazing how much pressure you can put. It's the same principle as lying down on a bed of nails. But anyway, so I will take the glass and I will chew it up. And here's part of the risk. Is that if I chew it up and I'm going to swallow it, if I chew it up too fine, it's possible that it can get powdery and get into my blood system, into the blood, and cause all kinds of harm, including the possibility of a stroke.
Sure.
But if I don't chew it up fine enough, the pieces are too large and they'll go through the intestinal tract and they can lacerate. So what I'm doing is, while I'm joking and trying to keep it moving and entertaining, I'm judging how fine the glass is. And then once I get it to the consistency I want, I then take water and I basically flush it down, because I don't want my throat constricting on this, because that's where you can get cuts.
So in no way are these light bulbs fake?
No. It's getting harder these days because incandescent bulbs are becoming rarer and rarer.
That's a true statement, yeah.
And the CFLs, those squirrely little things that you probably have right above you, and the LEDs are not consumable. There's a great deal of mercury in those CFLs, so I'm not going to be biting into those because of that. I can, if I'm very careful and don't inhale the gas in the plastic tube, I can do that. But the wonderful, standard Edison bulbs, as they call them, I can do those, and so I've been stocking up as I do this.
So you're actually buying extra bulbs in case they someday become antiques.
Yeah. And the irony of it is we can still get them here in New York, but they're now being manufactured in Mexico and places like that, because they can't do them here. There is actually a company that still has received approval to do so, because they're still needed in certain areas, certain trades. They need incandescent bulbs. They cannot use the CFLs or LED bulbs.
Well, originally I didn't like the new bulbs because they didn't provide a nice warm light, but of course they've got that solved now. So, the days of incandescent probably are numbered.
Yeah, I think so. However, theoretically, you have to be careful with disposing of these because of their mercury content. And thousands of these are going to our landfills. And the question is, that comes out of the power plant. We're going, well, okay, but that doesn't discount the fact that these bulbs have mercury in them, and they're going to our landfills, and they're breaking under the pressure of all that trash. And what is that going to do down the road as that starts to seep in? Is that going to lead to the zombie apocalypse? I don't know. I don't know. So bring back the incandescent bulb.
Well, unlikely. You're trying to keep the art of the sideshow alive, and that is what you do, and that's got to be pretty tough in this day and age. You've got to almost transfer what you do, I don't know, to the internet, or how do you do it?
The fact is, the sideshow, in its natural habitat, which was in circuses and in carnivals and amusement areas like Coney Island, is all but dead. There is a sideshow out in Coney Island. It's a not-for-profit performing arts group called Coney Island USA. There is the Venice Beach Freak Show, a little wonderful storefront operation in Venice Beach. It had its own reality TV show a while back. But the carnivals aren't carrying sideshows anymore. Circuses no longer have them, because the old days, people would spend, it was the highlight of their year in the rural areas around the country, that when the circus came to town, there'd be the parade in the morning, and they'd all follow it out to the lot there. They'd watch the tent go up. They'd bring them lunch, and they'd watch them, feed and exercise the animals, and then they're there, and they need something to do, so there'd be some games, and then have a sideshow, which you'd see before the main show, and that would have the guy swallowing the swords, and the fat lady, and the tallest man in the world, the smallest woman, and so on and so forth. Strange, unusual people, and it just was, it was something unusual. It was something beyond your everyday life. It was extraordinary, and that's all gone now, because you can find this on the Learning Channel any given night. Is a freak show, and so it comes into your living room now. You don't have to wait for the circus to come to town.
I mean, that's why I said you're weird. You eat light bulbs, so that makes you extra weird. And for those of you who doubt for 1 second what I'm saying, I'm telling you right now, go to artbell.com, click on Todd Robbins, and then you're going to have the opportunity. Actually, you don't even have to click on them. You're going to have the opportunity. Yeah, you do. You're going to have the opportunity to see a video. It lasts about how long, Todd?
It was about 2 minutes or so.
No, it was actually 5 minutes and 34 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
There you go.
In this, without any question whatsoever, they show Todd eating, I believe, a 60-watt standard light bulb after it's been plugged in.
I used to eat 100-watt bulbs, but I'm on a diet now.
Yeah. You heard that one.
The joke. Yeah.
Right. But you absolutely do it. Now, a few questions. You mentioned the consistency, and I'm wondering, how do you know that all the pieces reach the consistency that you must have to survive this before you swallow it?
That's the second part of it. I want to make certain that when I talk about diet and regimen, there are things I do every day that kind of
like what?
All my intestinal tract happy with fiber and little lubricants and things like that, so that everything keeps moving. Because I don't want anything to stop on its way. I don't want anything down there about doing it. I want it all moving along.
Yes.
And then before I do a light bulb, I will end up eating usually a decent meal, and if not, I will ingest as much starchy foods as possible. Someone said eat bread. That was actually a very good thing that they suggested there.
Really?
Let me tell you, there's a little quick story. I was doing a show about the sideshow off Broadway in New York about a decade ago. It was called Carnival Knowledge, and it was about my experience working out in Coney Island and the love of the sideshow and the history of it. And a writer for the New Yorker decided he was going to do a little profile on me, and he was going to bust me. He was going to prove it was a trick. So he brought along one of the heads of gastroenterology at New York University Hospital, and Dr. Cohen, and to see the show and interview me afterwards, because he was going to bust me. This guy, if anyone would know that it's a trick, trick, it would be this guy. And so we sat down, and I talked to the doctor, and I revealed everything. I went in much more detail than I'm going into now.
All right, well, hold tight. We're at a break. It's a short 2-minute break, Todd. We'll come back and find out how that turned out for you. We have the video on my website of Todd eating a 60-watt GE bulb. It's a little hard to watch, and you're cringing as you watch.
Want to take a ride? Exclusively on the Dark Matter Digital Network. This is Midnight in the Desert with your host, Art Bell. To call Art, please dial 1-952-225-5278. That's 1-952-CALL-ART.
Actually, please don't do that yet. Todd Robbins is my guest, and we're just sort of getting into what he does. One of the things he does is eat light bulbs. He has, in fact, eaten more light bulbs than any human on the planet. Thousands of light bulbs. Real light bulbs. It's not a trick. I guess in the strictest sense, it's not magic. To me, it's magic. If anybody had told me you could eat an entire light bulb and survive, I would have said it was either magic or it was a trick. But no. I'm going to mention this because my producer said, "Oh, hey Todd, can you keep a light bulb on hand?" And I haven't made up my mind about that. We'll see what the audience says. But you know what? There's a video on my website, which is artbell.com. If you click on Todd, you have the opportunity to see him without question, without tomfoolery, without any doubt. He eats a 60-watt GE light bulb. And you just can't watch without cringing. And I think Todd said in the video, one of the things he enjoys most when he eats light bulbs is watching the expression on people's faces. And I get it, so totally get it, because you should have seen mine. I didn't believe it, Todd, but you really do that, huh?
Yeah. It's actually, I think it's a wonderful thing because it shows empathy. It's as if I'm making you eat the glass because we're sort of one so there's a strange bond there when people experience this. They don't just watch me do this; they experience it, and
they do.
Yeah, and that's what part of the power of all this. And then it fills them with wonder, and that's a glorious thing, because finding out what's possible in life is what drives people to do great things with their lives. And
fills you with a lot of little Ginsu knives.
Yes. Yeah.
Is it something that you can toughen to?
No, it's just something that the body does naturally. It's just pretty remarkable what the body can endure.
Okay, I've got this question. Have you ever seriously hurt yourself while doing this?
Not doing the light bulb. And I should just say that I know what I'm doing. We were talking before the break there. This doctor, this gastroenterologist, came and saw me and interviewed me and asked exactly what I was doing. And I told him all the precautions I took. And he went, I should recommend this to my patients. So he understood it was completely feasible what I was doing. And doing one light bulb in a show is not a problem. But out in Coney Island, when I was working in a sideshow there, I would eat 10 to 12 light bulbs a day.
What?
5 days a week. And so, our season started right around in the springtime, right around Easter, or would run until the beginning of October. So you do the math on that. And that's a lot of glass. And that's when you start to notice it. That's when it starts to Yeah.
I can only just barely imagine. But have you ever had to go to the emergency? I guess not. You're saying not, huh?
Not for this.
Or to a dentist?
It's funny in that when I go to the dentist, my dentist often has interns or dental students that are observing, and he says, "Come in here and take a look at this guy's teeth and see the wear pattern. What do you think caused that?" They go, "Oh, he grinds his teeth at night." No. And then I explain. And in the old days, I would say, and this is what I do, and I would screw a light bulb and bite into it and chow down on it, which would definitely get their attention. The worst thing there's two. I've hurt myself twice.
Okay.
One was swallowing a sword. The cardinal rule is you're having trouble, you stop. You just stop. If you're eating fire and the wind comes up and it blows the fire, you stop. The problem with glass eating, one of the reasons I don't encourage anyone to do it, and one of the reasons I don't teach it when I've taught people how to do things, is because once I swallow it, I can't stop it. And if it goes in the wrong place at the wrong time, I'm in trouble. I've been very fortunate, but I don't really want to encourage anyone else to give this a try, because it's a risk I'm willing to take, but I really don't want to encourage anyone else.
Well, you know how when you eat sometimes or drink, it goes down the wrong way?
Yeah, you have to be very careful. You have to be very, very careful, because every once in a while I've had a little piece get stuck in the back of the throat, and that's not pleasant, but it's very rare. The strangest thing that happened eating glass was and you're not going to find this pleasant whatsoever, but it's the kind of thing when you meet professional performers, whether they're actors or magicians or anything, when they get together, they tell war stories. They tell about not the great shows they've done, but the terrible things that have happened that they survived. They live to laugh and joke about it, and this is one of them. It was the 4th of July in about 1993. It was a Friday afternoon at the Sideshow. We were doing a performance, and we'd done about 4 shows and had about another 4 shows to go. And I bit into the light bulb, and I cracked open a tooth and lost a filling. And I had an exposed nerve. Well, now, the show must go on. So I ended up doing the rest of the shows that day, chewing the glass on the other side, washing it down with water, keeping it all on the other side as much as possible. I then called my dentist, who was out of town, and I couldn't find anyone. So I ended up doing 10 shows the next day, 10 shows the next day, and then about 8 shows on that Monday of that extended weekend before I could get to a dentist on Tuesday to get that tooth fixed. So when people go, I'm a Broadway actor and it's so tough, I do 8 shows a week, boo-hoo. When I hear about movie stars, we had such a tough shoot, boo-hoo, try doing, 30-some shows with an exposed nerve, eating glass. Show business, it's a grand thing.
It's a grand thing, yes. All right, so my producer, I want the world to know this. She's the one behind this, not me, and not any message that I'm getting on the computer. I'm getting some messages on the computer, but my, nice little Heather back there, right? You talked to her, right? Very pleasant little girl. She wants proof. In other words, she wants you to eat a light bulb on the air. Now, I'm not sure I see the value in it, Todd, in that we have this video of you eating a light bulb, and for you to crunch here on the air would be kind of interesting, but I'm not sure that it's proof. I mean, you could have the sound of crunching glass on the phone, and that wouldn't be proof. Now,
it wouldn't be proof, but if there's nothing that can be done for anyone that is listening at home to really prove to them, other if they see me do it live, in a performance, really. And even then, they may be suspect about it. I always light up the bulb in a work light so people can see it's real, because if it is candy, that bulb burns for a while, and candy would melt if it gets that hot. And I hand out the bulb and let everyone examine it. It's very funny because years ago when I was doing colleges and universities, I had a poster that said, I'll give you $10,000 if you can prove that this or any of the other things are fake.
Have you got a smartphone?
I do.
Do you have Periscope on it?
I don't have it installed. I apologize about that.
That's too bad, because, we could sort of get you on Periscope. I mean, come on, folks. Just the sound of crunching here on the radio, I don't think. I mean, this video is way beyond anything we could produce on the radio. Say if, something going wrong and you quickly having to head off to the emergency room.
But, having seen the video, now this is going to be done specifically for you. So if there's any moment here, this is being done live. Oh, yeah, art for you, anything.
Yeah, but then after you've said that, now I feel doubly bad. For me, anything, all right? So if you suddenly get it wrong...
Say nice things to the memorial service, Art.
I would feel so guilty. Let's come back to this, okay?
Okay.
I haven't made up my mind on this.
Okay.
So, what other things? I mean, you mentioned, for example, somebody who can lie on a bed of nails. Now, you see, that doesn't seem right to me. You say the skin can take a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I've got pretty sensitive skin when I think of a bed of nails, and that's the difference between some sort of magic show and a sideshow. In a sideshow, these people are actually doing these things, right?
Yeah. The thing about a bed of nails is that if you were on a single point, the pressure would be so great it probably would cause a puncture.
Well, sure.
And so it's counterintuitive, thinking that if you have 100 nails or 300 or 500 nails, it would make it 500 times more difficult and more dangerous. And it's just the opposite, because the fact is now your weight is spread out all over all those points, and so there's not enough weight on any given point to cause a puncture into the skin. And you can even take it a step further and have someone stand on top of you. I know a performer, a friend of mine, he has 7 people stand on top of him while lying down on a bed of nails.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? I kind of get that one a little bit. In other words, the weight is, of course, distributed among all the nails. So, okay, maybe that makes sense. I bet it still hurts, though. I mean,
it's not the most pleasant thing, but the irony of it is, it causes a great deal of stimulation, the irritation of the nails in the back there, and it causes a flushing of the blood. And if you have a bad back, it actually can cause increased circulation and help relieve back spasms and things like that.
Oh, I have a really bad back, a really bad one, Todd.
Oh, we have to get together one of these days.
But not that bad, Todd.
And that is where we will leave the Master of the Macabre with Art Bell for this evening. Please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Help us get to the goal of 50,000 views, 1,000 subscribers. Box you an extra cent, so it's nice red packages. And of course, Google puts us on the algorithms. Coinbase, Ibotta, and Gain.gg. You know the drill on those. We're not going to harp on those. And until next time, like, share, and subscribe. Be kind to one another and release the Krakens. As we march along this overnight and every overnight here from day one. Have a great night's sleep, enjoy your good night's rest, and thank you new subscribers who have joined in the last 24 hours.